Welcome to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. We are a community newspaper based in Midcoast, Maine, and we provide the most comprehensive, in-depth coverage available anywhere of the 18 towns and one plantation that make up Lincoln County. My name is Christina Wallace, and I'm a reporter here at LCN covering the towns of Bristol, South Bristol, Bremen, and Noblesboro.
And I'm Juell. I'm a reporter covering Newcastle, Damascotta, Whitefield, and Edgecombe.
And we're joined by a newcomer today.
I am Claire Taylor, and I'm a reporter here as well. Beat upcoming.
To be determined.
Yes. In our last episode, we discussed the history behind the annual fall festivals, Apple Fest and Pumpkin Fest, and conducted a poll around the office to determine which people thought the superior fall flavor was. This week, we will be talking about the people who get the paper to print every week and the hard work that goes into it. But first, here are some of our top stories from our Thursday, October 9th edition of the Lincoln County News. Residents of Jefferson voted to approve a revised education budget at a special town meeting on Wednesday, October 1st. This is the town's third attempt at trying to pass an education budget for the 2026 fiscal year. The revised budget totals $9.3 million, which is a decrease of $677,470, or 6.97% from the previous version of the budget that voters approved at a special town meeting on July 9, but failed to validate at the polls on August 12th, with a vote of 279 to 152. The newest figure is the lowest proposed budget out of the three drafts presented this year. At the beginning of the October 1st meeting, AOS 93 Superintendent Todd Sanders gave a presentation to explain the fluctuations in the different versions of the budget. He said the main driver of the increases is the special education budget. According to Sanders, JVS had a significant shortage of teachers and support staff for the 2024-25 academic year, causing more students to be placed out of district for special services, which increased the budget. This year, JVS has more sufficient staff, which has enabled more students to receive services at JVS and have fewer out-of-district placements. The special education budget saw a decrease of $545,986, or 16.88%, from the previous version of the budget. Residents will consider whether to validate the budget from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4th, during the referendum election at Jefferson Fire Department. So hopefully their time's going to be a charm.
Hopefully, to be determined. In some other municipal news, Damascotta nods continued joint public works research despite residents' concerns. Officials from Newcastle and Damascotta will continue fleshing out figures for a potential shared public works department after receiving approval from their respective select boards. At a Damascotta Select Board meeting on Wednesday, October 1st, members said the towns should see the analysis process through, despite concerns expressed by residents in attendance. Since May, officials from the Twin Villages have discussed general parameters for a shared department that would provide year-round service, including, snow plowing as well as some off-season work like draining out culverts, filling potholes, that kind of stuff. So, with the help of a grant-funded consultant, the two towns have been discussing logistics like necessary staffing, equipment, and service levels. As of now, the Joint Public Works Department is estimated to require 7.5 full-time employees, 1 pickup truck, 6 dump trucks, and machines such as yard loaders and subcompact tractor. A site of at least 5 acres would also be needed for office space, salt storage, and material storage. Despite residents' concerns, Damascotta Select Board Chair Darrell Frazier said he hopes the community will remain open-minded until there is a more concrete picture of the department and its associated costs. Frazier said, "If we shoot down everything from the very beginning, then we're not going to have any plans for any ideas ever. We need to know what the actual numbers are and go from there." Some of the concerns raised by people included just accurate numbers, feeling as if the joint effort may not actually produce cost savings, and just, people were concerned about funding efforts outside of their town with their own tax-paying dollars. So, but all the town officials said that they are going to do their best to address people's concerns and just make sure to produce the most accurate numbers possible so that everyone can decide what's the best next move. So
Yeah.
it's all to be determined.
Absolutely. In some more education news, Bristol and South Bristol advanced their plans to enter into an education service center. The Bristol and South Bristol school committees unanimously voted to continue supporting the effort to form an education service center and to submit the second part of their application to the Maine Department of Education at their meetings on Thursday, October 2nd and Tuesday, October 7th, respectively. The school committees voted to approve the first part of the application at the end of August, which the state approved in September. The second part of the application, which is due at the end of October, requires a formal proposal to the DOE that includes a draft proposal budget, details about the organizational structure and staffing, such as job descriptions and roles, information on the governance and how decisions would be made, and an outline of the services the Education Service Center would provide, such as special education, transportation, and administration, according to South Bristol School Committee Chair Sarah Mitchell. Although both committees voted to submit the second part of the application, it is not a binding agreement, even if approved by the state. This includes the draft of the interlocal agreement, draft budget, and draft withdrawal plans. Both committees must vote on joining an education service center before November 30th for the agreement to be binding. So they do plan on voting earlier to give their neighboring schools a bit more of a chance to plan ahead for next year. So they're planning around November 12th to have that decision finalized, and then it will be official. It'll be officially entering in.
Nice.
Yeah.
It seems like they've moved pretty efficiently on all of this.
They have. Yeah, they have moved very quickly. Their restructuring committee has definitely done a lot of work. So,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
In other news, it has been 20 years ago this week since the destruction of Sherman Lake. Heavy rains from a storm washed away a dam in Newcastle, which destroyed Sherman Lake and created conditions for Sherman Marsh to thrive. According to the Lincoln County News Archives, rainfall during what was called the Columbus Day storm over October 9th and 10th of 2005 flooded, damaged, or closed more than 150 roads across Lincoln County, inundated a pump station on Birch Point Road in Wiscasset, and caused debris to block a culvert on West Elna Road, which in turn flooded several acres of land. Newcastle-based National Weather Observer Arlene Cole reported that more than 7 inches of rain fell over the course of the weekend. Landowners on Sherman Lake went to bed Sunday night owning lakefront property and woke up Monday morning to find that the lake was gone after the water level rose enough to breach the levee. State, county, and local officials acted quickly to mitigate the damage after the washout was discovered. Workers imported stones, riprap, and earth to backfill the area. In 2006, DOT Commissioner David Cole announced that after much deliberation that the state would not rebuild the dam that would restore the lake, and instead it would be restored as a salt marsh due to environmental and budgetary considerations. Cole said, "A healthy salt marsh, while not a replacement for Sherman Lake, brings many positive benefits to the site."
That's crazy how a lake just disappeared overnight. I can't even imagine something like that happening.
It must have been very jarring for those folks waking up on the lakefront.
I can imagine.
I do imagine if I was one of those people, I don't know, to go from having a view out to a lake to... I've never seen a marsh, so I'm sure they have their own beautiful traits, but I would probably feel a little questionable about my real estate choices.
Absolutely.
In the lead up to Pumpkin Fest, which is this coming weekend when we're recording this, 2 state records were smashed at the Pumpkin Way-Off last weekend. Elroy Morgan of Charleston took home not 1, but 2 victories at this year's Great Pumpkin Commonwealth Way-Off on Sunday, October 5th at Louis Doe Home Center. Morgan won the award for the largest pumpkin, weighing 1,624.5 pounds, and the longest gourd, which measured 151.5 inches, which broke a state record. It was his own state record.
That's amazing.
Right? I feel like it's especially cool. It's your own competition as yourself.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, though.
Truly, truly. Bill Mikowski of Milford broke his own state record as well with a 177.5-pound field pumpkin. Mason Busby of Damariscotta won the youth division with a 606.5-pound giant pumpkin. And Edgar and Dawn Lamb of Orono won the Howard Dill Award for the prettiest pumpkin. It was really cool to just like see all the growers who are clearly very passionate about giant pumpkin growing. And it was especially like very cool to see the operation among the like volunteers to get the pumpkins to the scale. Like I did not anticipate how much of like a locked like routine they all have to guide all the forklifts and just like use any kind of like, I don't know, strap mechanisms to like get it there. It was, I don't know, it was very impressive. And I appreciated that they let me get very close and take some pictures, even though I'm sure it made their job a little harder. So
I saw the pictures you took, and it's like incredible the operation that they have there. Like they take this so seriously every year.
Oh yeah.
And I also didn't realize how like giant pumpkins can get.
They're just so
insane.
big.
They
It's
are
amazing, honestly, what these folks have done.
Yeah. And I know that, you know, with the drought this year, it was like a little bit tougher to get some like good quality pumpkins, but you know, we still had a great show out. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we still had records smashed. So
Exactly.
10 out of 10 for that headline, by the way.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Did my best.
So, speaking of fall festivities, I got to cover Applefest. Nobleboro's annual fall festival, Applefest, celebrated the beauty of autumn with beautiful weather and lots of apple pies on Saturday, October 4th. The weather was like perfect for the event, which is so incredible. Residents and volunteers gathered at Nobleboro Central School to participate in this annual event hosted by the Nobleboro Historical Society. This year, the event saw a change in volunteers. Several of the veteran Applefest volunteers stepped down and made way for a new generation of volunteers. This year, Jill Nutter took over the food preparations and was hard at work making homemade donuts from scratch, with one of the largest turnouts she said she's ever seen. Local vendors sold crafts, fresh apples were for sale from Beth's Farms, and the Nobleboro Fire Department even paid a visit for kids to sit in their truck. And there were indeed well over 100 apple pies for sale. Wow. So, yeah.
Were there any gluten-free options for you to try?
I don't believe so. I was telling our editor, Maya, as soon as I walked in, the gluten just like hit me. It smelled so good. Everyone was so kind there. And yeah, definitely a really good turnout. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Glad to hear. In further development related to a potential data center, Westport and Wiscasset residents shared their dissent at the Wiscasset Select Board meeting on Tuesday, October 7th. Wiscasset town officials told the county commissioners they were in early talks to turn the former main Yankee site on Old Ferry Road into a data center at a September 16th commissioners meeting. During the October 7th board meeting, residents expressed their concerns over power demands, water capacity, and the environmental impacts the proposed data center could bring. Residents said they hope Wiscasset will consider the impacts of the data center both within and beyond town lines. Wiscasset Select Board Chair Sarah Whitfield said, "We will absolutely do our due diligence, everything from environmental concerns to traffic to sound, light, water, community. All of that will be addressed if this moves forward, and we don't even know if it will." So, yeah. I think it was a good opportunity for people who maybe do not live in Wiscasset but still want to share their input, especially if it does end up going to voters. Just share how they feel like they might be affected.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
In other community news, the character of the county this week was Kevin Burnham. He is the longtime editor of the Booth Bay Register. Burnham started at the newspaper as a staff reporter in 1987. Within 6 months, he was named the newspaper's editor, a position he has held ever since. Burnham said he took an interest in newspaper and sports early on in his life, both thanks to the influence of his father. Burnham said, "I think I'm a part of the whole community that put trust in me, that we do a good job covering their stories and their work. I feel a responsibility to the news, to the community that we're serving. It's not just a job." To read more about Burnham, pick up a copy of this week's edition of the Lincoln County News or go to lcnme.com.
And speaking of community journalism, this is kind of a good transition because our second segment really talks about our paper and the people that put a lot of work into it, and also the impacts of community journalism, because I think that's an important thing to talk about. So we'll move on to our second segment. In our September 18th edition of the Lincoln County News, our publisher, John Roberts, wrote an editorial outlining the hard work and dedication that goes into bringing the paper to print every week. Since we have a new reporter joining us this week, we thought we would highlight the people who work hard each week to bring the paper to life and talk about the impacts of community journalism. So let's start by talking about our staff, because we definitely have a great group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so neat meeting everybody on the staff and just kind of getting to get an outsider perspective of how hard these folks are working.
Totally.
So on the staff, we have Maya Zuert. She's our amazing editor. She started at the paper as a general assignment reporter 10 years ago. She has been the editor of the paper for 3 years now. And then we have Amber Clark, who runs our website and designs the magazine, and she has also been here for a decade. And then we also have Sherwood Olin. He is our associate editor. He has been with the paper for 25 years. He started as an editor, took a break, and then came back as associate editor. He's responsible for the majority of our character of the county stories. We also have Sarah Masters, who is our arts and eats reporter, and has been at the paper for 2 years. Mick LaBelle is our full-time sports reporter, who has been with LCN for 2 years, and Paula Roberts, the mother of publisher John Roberts, is our part-time sports reporter. We also have Charlotte Boynton, who is our most seasoned staff member. She reports on Westport Island and has been a key reporter since 2013. LCN typically has 4 full-time general assignment reporters. Since September, Allie and Christina have been the only full-time reporters, covering as much as they can across Lincoln County.
So now we're excited to announce that we have a new reporter with us, Claire Taylor. So Claire, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am new here. I just started this week, and I'm super excited to be a part of the LCN community. I just moved to the area with my partner and our cat, and it has been wonderful to get to know the area, and I'm really excited to do that through the paper as well, and just get to see these thriving communities. So
that's awesome. And I think Allie and I were telling you that a lot of how we discovered the county was through assignments. Yeah. So I think that'll be good for you.
Yeah, so, I'm really excited.
And very importantly, what's your cat's name?
Oh, my cat's name is Tuesday.
Adorable. I love it. Very important.
Why Tuesday?
It just suited him.
I like it. I don't know. It's something about it being like the day before Wednesday. I like it.
Yeah, it's very fitting for the paper, I feel.
Yeah. We also have many other people who contribute to the paper. If we were to list all of them, this would be a very long podcast. But there is a full list of everyone at LCN in the September 18th edition of the paper. Maya thought it was really funny that on the list it says that she's been here longer than John, because John was named publisher a couple of months after she got here as a general assignment reporter. So that's a fun little detail on that chart. But we also have a pretty unique week.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's, no week, no day is ever really the same, which is a very fun part of the job. Our week starts and ends on Wednesdays, which is very interesting. And everything we do really revolves around getting the paper to print. And it is taken to the print on Wednesday mornings. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are kind of hectic because that's when we have our deadlines. It's when we're, in our kind of final crunch to get things in and to cover any last minute meetings. But after we go to print on Wednesdays, we have a staff meeting where we plan stories for the upcoming paper. We talk through any kind of events, any, people who have reached out, maybe had some important things that we need to keep an eye on. Part of what makes our job is so unique is the fact that we get to cover a ton of different topics. I mean, everything from what's happening with shellfish contamination to a brand new education budget getting passed to pumpkin boats floating through the river. So it's very fun and enjoyable to get to do so many different things. And I have to say, like, one of my favorite stories I've done is a story that was brought to me by someone in the community about food pantries and everything that goes into manning those. I got to go in during a day when the food pantry was in full swing, and from there I got to call and talk with a ton of different food pantry leaders across the county and turn that into kind of an opportunity to just highlight everything that goes into it and why it's an especially challenging time right now for people who are food insecure, and to, provide those people adequate opportunities. So I really enjoy about this job that we get to shine a light on things that people might not otherwise realize, and hopefully make them appreciate the people that make up our county a little bit more. So,
yeah, absolutely. I always think it's fun when you have to do research or some amount of research on a story in order to write it, especially if it's about a topic like you've never heard of before or have no experience in. Like for me, covering the Fiber Fair in Bristol was really interesting because I had to do a lot of research on like the process of how wool is made or wool is spun and things like that, and how the textiles were made in the mill and things like that. So it was really cool to be able to just learn something fun about that.
Totally.
Yeah. So community journalism is something that's very important, and it impacts a lot of us. And, where we are working in community journalism, I thought it would be cool to kind of talk about that. So I have a couple talking points here that I think would be cool to go over. So why do you think community journalism still matters today, especially when people can get information instantly online?
I feel like I think about the fact that, I don't know, this is super specific, but my dad has like tons of these boxes of like basically all of our like family pictures and stuff got like thrown into like 5 different boxes. So they're just like these big boxes stacked with tons of random like family history things. And I think about the fact that, when we were looking through the boxes, we would find like newspaper clippings, and getting to read those and see, even if it was just like a really small short story, if like someone from our family was like at a community event or something, there was something really special about getting to pick that up and see like a little bit of their personality and who they were as a person, especially the family members I never got to meet. Like to know that they were recorded and just immortalized in that way was really cool and special. And I feel like that happens less and less because there's, less community news happening across the world. And so I feel really special and honored to be able to provide those kinds of like opportunities for people here in Lincoln County.
Yeah. And before I wrote my first character of the county piece, Sherwood had brought up, this is sometimes like the first or only time that someone is going to be featured in a newspaper this way. And it's just really special for them to look back on. And I think like we get so caught up in like the big news that it's so nice to be able to take a step back and look at the people in the community and be able to highlight someone in such a positive way. Yeah, I just think that's really special. It's a nice little break from all of the hecticness of the news going on around you. And I think that that's a very unique part of community journalism that like much broader journalism doesn't get to see, is you don't get to see like those little moments between people. You know, everyone's so focused on the bigger stuff. So, yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like, especially, I think in thinking about like getting information instantly online, right? Of that, like, yes, there's a lot that you can learn online. There's a lot of great tools out there and information that you can pick up, but also you aren't getting those interpersonal details. You aren't able to access like those little stories aren't available online. You might not know otherwise without actually getting a journalist in to talk with those people and have those conversations and bring them to the community at large.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And I think that kind of ties into my next question is, how do you think local news shapes the sense of identity in a town or neighborhood? For me, I think like being able to see your business on the front page as a really big one, because then like you can be walking through the stores and say like, oh, hey, there's my friend on the front page, or bring awareness to like a small startup that's happening that, you know, you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise, and things like that. So getting someone's project recognized.
I feel like it really gives people an opportunity to understand their neighbors and you know, people they know intimately, people they maybe like have only ever seen like passing by in the grocery store, just getting a deeper perspective and maybe being able to better understand what makes someone like who they are, and also like find commonality. So I think it's a great way to bring people together in ways they might not otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like just having a sense of like that broader community too, in being able to bring out those individual stories seems really important to me. I think like having an idea of what is going on in your town, in your village, like just knowing, it's really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you build and maintain trust with your readers or listeners? For me, I think a big one is actually like being a part of the community. I think that's a very unique aspect of working at LCN, is I'm not just like someone from the outside coming in to report on this. Like I'm actually like in the community and a part of it. And I think that gives you a very unique perspective on reporting and things like that. I think there's like much more of the culture that I'm able to see in the towns and incorporate into my stories. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think this is something that, like, as I'm starting out, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to do this and how I want to make sure that I am being a person who is going to do right by our readers and by the folks that I'm writing about. And I think so far for me, that has meant just being very honest about where I'm at and what I don't know, and just trying to ask lots of questions, trying to make sure that I'm going to portray people right and in the light that they would like to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. Yeah. I think especially in community journalism, it's really important to demonstrate to people, like when you're talking to them, that you care about them in their entirety as a person and not just about getting what you need to write this story. Like,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like it's very valuable as you're chatting with people to take the time to just like learn about all the things that make them who they are. And I feel like it's even helpful, like when you're writing, to understand just like all the personal context that's leading into like these community stories. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've gotten to meet such interesting people doing my job and going around on assignments and interviewing people and just hear their stories and hear how like fascinating they are. And building those relationships to me is really important, because really community is at the center of what we do here. So I think that's a very important aspect. My last question is, what is the hardest part of the job and what is the most rewarding part of the job?
I definitely think that it can be challenging to feel as if, you know, every story that we get to do, it's always an honor to get to bring light to things and to be the person like writing them. And I always wish with almost every story that, you know, I had more time, more opportunity to really like focus and, you know, put just complete and uninterrupted energy into something. But part of the job is juggling a lot of different stories at once. So it can be hard sometimes knowing that, you know, to manage time and to get everything in, we maybe don't always get to have the full, deep, like unadulterated focus on stories that we would like to. But it's very rewarding to just, I don't know. Like I kind of said earlier, I really enjoy putting something out there for people to, you know, better understand their neighbors, to better understand people that maybe they don't get to interact with on a daily basis. And that's always just like a personal goal of mine, is I want people, even if they don't agree with others, to at least understand where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, like the most rewarding part of the job is the impact that what I do has on other people. I think as journalists, we're in a very unique position where we have the ability to ask questions on behalf of hundreds to thousands of other people so that they're informed on issues. And that's something that I take very seriously. And so I think, you know, using that and being able to provide the information to people is definitely a very rewarding aspect of the job. I would say as for the hardest part, definitely doing those tougher stories, any like car accidents, things like that. It's never something that I like to report on. It can be hard, especially in small communities, but it definitely can offer people some closure on things that happened, because I think anything major like that happening in a small town is like, it's big. It's a big thing. So yeah, just turning that around and being able to provide people with some closure is good. What are you looking forward to the most about working here and getting to know Lincoln County?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to just kind of dive into the county. And like, I'm really enjoying, I've been here for about a month leading up to this. And so I've been trying to get to know the area on my own. But it's been really fun since starting here, that I feel like I'm looking at everything with new eyes. Like I'm taking it all in new ways. I'm taking lots of notes. And just, I feel like it's a new lens to look at the world through. And it's really neat. Yeah. But I'm just really excited to get to know the community and the people out there, because folks have been so nice and so welcoming so far.
Yeah.
So.
I know when I first started here, I think one of the biggest shocks to me was just how kind and welcoming everyone is.
Yeah.
And that was such a good feeling as someone who felt like a complete outsider, like coming into this community. Yeah. And like kind of getting right up in people's business, having to report on things. It was just really nice to like have that support from total strangers. And just like the kindness I've seen has been really, really great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, Claire, we're very excited to have you here. And
yes,
it's been fun to have you in the office and to get into the groove of things. So
thank you so much. It's been a joy to be here.
Yes, and we're very excited to see what's next for you and which town.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you all next week.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. This podcast is produced by Lucas McNelly and Maya Zewert. Tyler Davis of Tyality Productions provides production support. Our theme music is by Stu Mahan and LCN Associate Editor / Bassist Sherwood Olin. The Lincoln County News hits newsstands across the county every Wednesday afternoon. You can also access our work online at lcnme.com. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion, please email us at info@lcnme.com. As always, we're grateful for the support of our readers and listeners in Lincoln County and beyond. It's been great catching up today, and we'll talk with you again soon.